told me homecoming games are the best. On the banks of those late fall, late cartwheel sunsets, I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. I feel really sorry for our sisters to the south, 'cause they come up here every other year and get punched in the mouth. Oh, and every home Saturday, it gives us the chills to watch those boys in orange run together down that hill. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, somewhere up in heaven, Gaines Adams makes us sad, and that old Banks McFadden is the best damn running back. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Everybody, damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Labor Day to everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day off. I planned on possibly going live tonight for the Virginia Tech and Florida State game. That's not going to happen. I am going to be doing my live content creators fantasy draft with the Sports Fury. So anybody who doesn't know who the Sports Fury is, I'm sure you probably do if you're already here. They'll be streaming that. Maybe you guys can help me down in the comment section, since it's going to be live. Help me with my picks tonight, because I need to beat UCF Jaguar and the rest of those guys. UCF Jaguar is the defending champ. So good luck to everybody. I'm looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun. I will have the game on also watching that, so I'll be multitasking. Let's see who we have in here before we get into the game tonight, and we can also talk a little bit about what happened last night if you guys want to. Nick Bro, good afternoon, sir. How you doing? George, good afternoon to you. Paul Jamison. Paul Jamison, I know I've seen you on Catfish's show. Resident Ohio State fan. He says, let's go Buckeyes. Good afternoon. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Wrong on Purpose, also known as the artist formerly known as Drake Luke, our resident Oregon fan. How you doing, sir? Good afternoon. XS Glover, how you doing? Gabe Kayett, Clemson Carson. Clemson Carson, how you doing, sir? With a name like Clemson Carson, you must be a genius because you're a Clemson fan. So, let's just do a little bit of a recap of week one real quick. Some of the biggest surprises of the week, and some of the what we all knew was going to happen. We knew that teams like Ohio State and Clemson were going to dominate their teams. Georgia, Alabama. Listen, we'll get into that in a second with the SEC versus the ACC debate here, because. Okay, everyone knew Louisville was going to lose to a superior team in Alabama. No shock there. Now, I'll admit I picked Miami to beat LSU. I didn't see one single person on here picking LSU to win that game. I haven't seen a single LSU fan. Now they win the game, and you think they won the Super Bowl all of a sudden. I got news for you. Miami's not that good. We saw that last night. They would have been beat by Pitt. They would have been beat by just about anybody in the ACC the way they played last night. They have no offense. They've got to fix that stat. Otherwise, they're not going to even win that division, and they have no shot to win the ACC doing that. But all over Twitter, all over the internet, as soon as LSU beats Miami, all of a sudden the ACC is trash. The SEC's the dominant conference over the ACC. But there's one little fact that everyone I've made probably a dozen videos about this over the past year, and nobody can answer this question for me. So maybe one of you can. I'd be happy to hear anybody's rebuttal to this. The SEC has a losing record to the ACC over the past 5 years. 22-25 is the SEC's record head-to-head against ACC teams. That includes the regular season and bowl games. They're 4-16 in rivalry games against the ACC in the past 5 years as well. So if you're so dominant over the ACC, you wouldn't have a losing record to them over the past 5 years. Now, their argument is they have, this millennia, this century, they have way more national title winners and a winning record against every other conference. Well, good for you. How far back do you want to go? I'm talking about the last half a decade. Recent history, folks. You sound like Michigan fans. All of you. Talking about how Michigan's the winningest program in the history of college football. Meanwhile, they have one half of one national title in 1997. That's irrelevant to now. If you're an SEC fan, before you start chirping, stop having a losing record to the ACC. Period. It's that simple. It's a long season, folks. Now, I will say this, though. LSU, I got to give them credit. I mean, I don't think that Miami played well. I think Miami's got a lot of problems right now, mainly on the offensive side of the ball. LSU did look better than I thought. Joe Burrow is a really good quarterback. He exceeded everybody's expectations for his first game in an LSU uniform. So I'll give credit where credit's due. I knew LSU was going to have a good defense. I did not expect their offense to look that good. But that's one game. All of a sudden, LSU thinks they're back, right? Not so fast, folks. It's a long season. LSU beat Auburn last year and lost to Troy. If LSU only wins 7 or 8 games this year, will Ed O survive that? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think Ed Orgeron's the answer. So Paul Jameson says someone's got to rep the Big Ten. I've got some Big Ten guys in here. Mark Dudley is our resident Michigan fan. XS Glover says Big Ten is trash. Good afternoon, Ryan Stanfield. How you doing, sir? He says Roll Tide. No shock there. Paul Jameson, yes, they are, but it was just Oregon State. Don't get too excited just yet. Yeah. Now, I will say this, though. I mean, it's no secret that Ohio State is loaded this year. I mean, they are absolutely loaded on both sides of the ball. They're going to be if you're anybody not named Ohio State and you're in the Big Ten, good luck. I picked Penn State as a dark horse team to win the Big Ten this year. I'm not so sure now. Again, it's only been week 1, but Ohio State's loaded, and that quarterback for Ohio State, Haskins, he looks like the real deal for sure. Yes, Paul Jameson says Haskins is legit. I agree. The guy looks like a complete stud. And maybe outside of Clemson, they've got the second. They're right there together as far as the defensive line goes. Ohio State's defensive line is a juggernaut. So Ohio State's going to be hard to beat, no doubt about it. Paul Jameson says those are wild stats, Pete. Yeah, but that's the stats, and nobody knows that. I'm the only one out here screaming this from the mountaintop. But there's no answer to it. Period. I mean, out of 47 games that the ACC has played the SEC against, head-to-head matchups over the past 5 years, the ACC has a winning record. Barely, but it's a winning record. So it is what it is, folks. Weber and Dobbins, Beast 2. Yes. But again, Ohio State's loaded. Nobody's going to dispute that. That's a fact. And again, Michigan. Paul Jameson, let me ask you this, because I know I sound like a broken record on here a lot of times. I mean, I'm not a believer in Jim Harbaugh. Never have been. Well, at least in the past couple of years, I haven't been. because of his record in the Big Ten, because of his record against non-conference teams, his 0% win percentage against ranked teams on the road. How do you feel as an Ohio State fan about Jim Harbaugh? I'd like to know. Because I just don't think and that's the other thing. So, I don't hate Michigan. I mean, they're not even in our conference. We've never even played them, as far as I know, ever. If we played them, I might have some trash to talk about. The game that we played against them. I don't have that. But here's my thing. If I try to put myself in the shoes of a Michigan fan, if I'm a Michigan fan, not a Clemson fan, would I be happy with Jim Harbaugh? And the answer is no, I wouldn't. But they all love him. I can't get it. I mean, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. If it wasn't for Florida and USC Junior, the ACC versus the SEC record would be different. Well, I mean, how can you say that? I mean, if it weren't for Georgia Tech and Louisville, I could say the same thing. So what's your point? I mean, Florida State dominates Florida. Clemson dominates South Carolina. Louisville dominates Kentucky. And, of course, Georgia dominates Georgia Tech. But those are just the rivalry games, though. There's plenty of other teams throughout the ACC and the SEC that play each other every year. Alabama plays a couple of ACC teams every year, at least one. Clemson plays a couple of SEC teams every year. I mean, every team in the ACC plays some team in the SEC at some point during the season most years. So it's not just Clemson and Florida State beating up on everybody in the SEC. Meanwhile, Alabama's beating up on everybody in the ACC. So you can cancel those two out. It's across the board. Hell, last year Wake Forest beat Texas A&M in a bowl game. Good afternoon, The Finisher. How you doing, sir? Thank you for joining the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I know you're a new subscriber, so I want to welcome you to the channel. You're good people for being here. Paul Jameson says Harbaugh is a good coach, good recruiter. Their roster is just not executing. Well, I got a question for you, Paul Jameson. You're saying that Harbaugh's a good coach. I'd say he's a good coach. I'll give you that. You're saying he's a good recruiter. Well, that may be true, but they were 19th overall in the country last year in recruiting. This last recruiting class, 19th. He's the highest paid coach in the Big Ten. He hasn't recruited an elite quarterback that can put wins on the field, and he's a quarterback guy. So how is he an elite recruiter? The only reason he's got a decent quarterback now is because he went and got him from Ole Miss because Hugh Freeze was busy banging hookers in Florida. Clemson Carson says, Pete, are you going to any games this year? Yes. I'm either going to the Louisville or the NC State game. Don't know which one yet. And I'll most likely going to go to one Panthers game as well. I don't know which one I'm going to go to. I want to go to a divisional game either against the Falcons or the Saints, but I'm not sure. Or the Giants would be a good one to go to too. The Finisher says Clemson versus A&M is going to be interesting. Yeah, well, I'm biased. I think that any game that Clemson's playing in is interesting. I don't think it's going to be much of a game, though. I'm sorry, I don't. I mean, that's not a knock against the A&M or the SEC or Jimbo Fisher or anybody. If I'm being realistic here, the roster, the personnel on A&M isn't anything close to Clemson right now. That's just the way it is. If this game were played 2 years from now, it might be a different story. I just don't think they can keep up with Clemson. Did I see the top 25? No, I didn't. Was that released today? I didn't see that. Good afternoon, the Goat Watson. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. Clemson Carson says he's trying to get tickets to Syracuse or South Carolina. Syracuse would be a good one. That'd be a revenge game. XS Glover says Harbaugh is trash. I don't think he's trash. I just think he's way overrated. The Finisher says, don't get angry at me. I'm an LSU fan. I thought you were a Florida fan, judging from your avatar there. Are you trolling me, sir? Why would you have a blue and orange F if you're an LSU fan. I'm confused. You're confusing me, sir. And I don't get angry at anybody for being a fan. I mean, that's what this Pigskin Pete YouTube channel is all about, being a fan. I don't get mad at anybody. People get mad at me. They can't take trash talking. But if they can't take trash talking, they're in the wrong place. That's for sure. Let's see. Clemson Cards. South Carolina thinks they are going to ransack Georgia because they have the AL. What's the AL? First of all, this would be a great time to announce this, by the way. I got a very special guest coming on my scheduled stream tomorrow at 4 p.m. You probably all know who he is. I'm not going to say who he is. It'd be a surprise. But he's a Georgia fan, and everybody knows who he is, and we're going to talk about that. So I'm not going to blow my whole show tomorrow by talking about it today. I will, however, say at least this much about that game next week. It's going to be close. It could be closer than people think. The only reason I even say that is because it's in Columbia. Other than that, first of all, I wouldn't bet the game. I think that Georgia's a 9-point favorite in Vegas. Last time I checked, I wouldn't touch that game with a 10-foot pole as far as money goes. I wouldn't be shocked if South Carolina won, but I still lean about 75-25 Georgia beating South Carolina. They've got a better roster. They got a better coach. But it'll be a fun game to watch. That's definitely one of the ones I'm looking forward to next week for sure. Good afternoon, Michael Flowers. How you doing, sir? He says UGA sucks and will get humbled. He's a Gamecock fan. That's mighty interesting coming from a Gamecock fan saying that UGA sucks. Because last time I checked, UGA was in the national title game last year, and South Carolina has never been to a national title game in 126 years. So that's interesting. Michael Flowers says, Uncle Lou is scared of us. I seriously doubt that, sir. Voltard, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Nobody is scared of USC Junior. That's a fact. Write it down. Tattoo it on your forehead. If you tattoo it on your forehead, make sure you tattoo it backwards so when you look in the mirror, it reads correctly. Nobody's scared of South Carolina, folks. Nobody ever has been. Nobody ever will be. Will Muschamp is on his way out. He just doesn't even know it yet. He might be the defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh next year. I'm just kidding. South Carolina's got a pretty good team this year, but they're not elite. So it is what it is. They're not beating Georgia or Clemson probably. The finisher says, I can't wait to play Auburn. Hey, where is that game being played? You say you're an LSU fan. Where's that game at? George says his prediction is of Florida going undefeated and beating Clemson in the title game is holding up pretty good so far. I wouldn't go that far, dude. Michael Flowers says y'all are delusional. Who's y'all? I mean, South Carolina fans are the most delusional fans in the history of college football. They're right up there with Michigan, but at least Michigan's won something in their history, unlike you. Clemson Jacob, A&M linebacker, says we weren't ready for what they're going to throw at us. It sounds like Louisville talking crap to Alabama. Bad mistake. A&M talking crap to Clemson is just laughable, really. DeGoat Watson, Greg Hugel also looked good the other day. Yeah, Hugel did look good. He had like a career long. Now I'll tell you who the real star of that team is. The Clemson kicking team is B.T. Potter. Guy kicks it like 70 yards, man. It's unbelievable. Voltard says, do you think Will Muschamp will get South Carolina to an elite level in the future? Voltard, you must be new here. I mean, I've probably done 20 videos on Will Muschamp in the offseason. So the answer is no. I think that Will Muschamp is a good coach, not a great one. That's it. He's good for them. I mean, it depends on if you're a South Carolina fan, it depends on what makes you happy. That's all that matters. Everyone's got their own expectations for if you're happy winning 9 games a year, maybe possibly 10 every once in a while, and winning a bowl game. against a Michigan or somebody like that, then yeah, he's a great coach. If your expectation is to beat Clemson and win the East and compete for SEC titles and possibly make the playoffs and compete for national titles, no, Will Muschamp's not your guy. Sorry. I'd be willing to bet everything I own that Will Muschamp's not winning a national title with South Carolina. Ever. Michael Flower says, you're a sleeping giant. Well, you've been sleeping for a long time, sir. Over 100 years you've been sleeping. About time to wake up. Clemson Jacob says, I don't see a kick not being a touchback with Potter kicking. Yeah, he's you know, we looked up the stat the other day with BT Potter. When he was in high school, he kicked 126 kickoffs, 119 touchbacks. That's an amazing stat. That's like 97% of the kicks he kicked in high school were touchbacks. And he's an NFL kicker. He'll be and he's a true freshman, so we got him for at least 3 years, probably 4. Any SEC fan want to take Miami and give us Auburn? Dago Watson says, I doubt they want to do that. Michael Flowers says, we run the state of South Carolina. You're not even good at trolling, sir. 69, 42, and 4. Clemson has 23 or 24 conference championships, 2 national titles. South Carolina has a pitiful 1 ACC title in 1969 and nothing else. That's it. What a joke. What a place that is. Miami is embarrassing. Someone kicked them out of the ACC. Now, listen, Miami's never won the ACC since they've been in the ACC for like 18 years. So I don't know why everyone's piling on them. I mean, it is what it is. They've got an offense that's just terrible. Rodrigo Blankenship for Heisman, says Nick Bro, the kicker for Georgia. Good afternoon, Jamie McCaslin. How you doing, sir? I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Lynn J. Dixon is the real deal. We're going to let him go Saturday. It's unbelievable how this is the deepest we've ever been at running back in my life. I mean, I've been following Clemson football since I'm 5 years old, so over 30 years. Never seen a running back group like what they got now. That Lynn Dixon guy came out of nowhere, didn't he? I mean, so he was a highly recruit out of high school, got hurt, I think, his senior year and lost a lot of offers. And Clemson somehow picked him up, and the guy looks like Todd Gurley out there. He's amazing. It's just amazing how we got ETN, Feaster, Choice, and now this guy. Just the deepest we've ever been at running back, and it's not even close. Clemson's not known for running backs like the way Georgia or Alabama is, but we will be this year. Paul James says, loving the show, Pete. Bobby C. from Volunteer Road Show told me to pay more attention to your videos. I definitely want to get on your podcast later this season. Get you on your podcast. Yeah, I'd be happy to come on, man. No doubt. Especially if we end up playing you guys at some point in the postseason. That would be definitely a great conversation to have. Michael Flowers says, Clemson fans think they are gangster. No, sir, we don't think we are. We know we are. So, yeah. I'm terrible. Mark Rick pulls another one of his specials. Yeah, I know Jamie McCaslin's not feeling too good today. CJ Spiller is a Clemson GOAT. Yes, CJ Spiller is one of my all-time favorite Clemson players. It's not even close. We need a running back who can block those. Feaster and ETN can pass block. Yeah, that's the biggest question mark with ETN. Is he going to improve on pass blocking from last year? Last year he was running all over everybody, but he couldn't stop anything. I mean, the defensive linemen were just running right around him. He didn't know what was going on. They say he's improved on that. We'll see. I was really impressed to see the way Adam Choice has stepped up, though. Finisher says, in my opinion, Miami's season is not over. Well, first of all, I'd agree with that. Listen, Miami's schedule is not that hard. They are in the weaker of the two divisions in the ACC Coastal. Their only real competition should be Virginia Tech, and we'll see how they look tonight, and I'll get into that in a second. That's what this whole thing was supposed to be about. But listen, if Miami does not make a change at quarterback, they're not going to win that division, and they're certainly not going to compete for an ACC title. It's that simple. It's that simple. Their defense is good enough to compete in the ACC. Their offense couldn't compete in any conference in America right now. They're terrible. Your hands are shaking because you're scared of the squad. Yeah, I'm shaking. You're right. I'm so scared of South Carolina. I mean, you've exposed me, sir. Hey, Clemson fans, you need more than one quarterback. Quit complaining. Leave Brian alone. Yeah, he can win. He took us to the playoff last year. Now, winning a title with him, that's a different story. But I agree. It's sort of the same situation that's going on in Alabama with Tua and Hurts. They all want to say Hurts is trash, or some of them do anyway. Meanwhile, what happens if Tua goes out there and breaks his leg next week? And believe me, you're going to want Hurts out there. He knows how to win at least. If FSU loses tonight, it'll ease my pain, says Jamie McCaslin. Jamie McCaslin hates Florida State, as do most people. I think that it... so let's go ahead and talk about that, since that's what I got on here to talk about anyway. I think that Florida State's going to win pretty easily. Now, again, this is not a game I would bet. Too many unknowns. The main unknown is Willie Taggart. The thing with Willie Taggart is he's inherited one of the best rosters in America. Certainly one of the best rosters in the ACC. It's not even close. They've got the second most talented roster outside of Clemson in the ACC. Jimbo Fisher left him 5 stars all over the field. Cam Akers, one of the best running backs in America. DeAndre Francois is a really good quarterback. He got hurt in the first game against Alabama last year. They're just loaded roster-wise. And Virginia Tech just isn't. Virginia Tech hasn't had an offense since Bill Clinton was president, since Mike Vick was there. So, I don't know. Well, there's been some upsets. Some shocking developments this week. In week 1, you never know. But I expected this being in Tallahassee, this being Willie Taggart's first game. There's going to be a lot of energy around the team and around the stadium. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Cam Akers run for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns tonight. That's my prediction. But I wouldn't bet it. Avaltard says Clemson will kill A&M. I agree. Even Paul Feinbaum said that. And you know, who's more of an SEC homer than Paul Feinbaum? He said that he was at the A&M game on Thursday night when they were playing Nobody State University. And he said that he saw the team up and close, and there's no way they can compete with Clemson, and I would tend to agree with that. Clemson Jacobs says 27-10 Clemson. I don't know. I wouldn't. Clemson opened up at a 13.5 point favorite in that game, and I think it's down to 11. I mean, I could see Clemson. I could see it being a blowout. Really. Florida State's offensive line makes Michigan and Miami's look like All-Americans. Yeah, well, Florida State, you're right. That has been their problem the past 2 years anyway, as their offensive line. I will agree with you there. So that's the unknown. That is their weak spot. I'll agree with you there. Comic Dude 45. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. He says Hurts should transfer. Sorry, but it's not working for you. Nick Saban unwittingly destroyed you as a quarterback. Maybe go to Washington State. The air raid offense should receive your passing ability. And he's doing an ultimate troll job right now. Hurts will transfer after the season, I think, for sure. Paul Jameson says, for sure, Clemson owns Ohio State. I don't want to see you in the playoffs. Well, that is true. I mean, Ohio State's never beat Clemson in the 3 meetings. I would agree with you there. But like I said before, Ohio State's roster is so loaded this year. I would venture to say that this year's Ohio State roster was definitely the best that Urban Meyer's ever had, top to bottom. I mean, hell, when you guys won the national title in, what was that, 2015, 14, 15? Anyway, whatever. You know what I'm talking about when you beat Oregon. You had Ezekiel Elliott, and you had talent all over the field, but you had your third-string quarterback. So Ohio State with an elite quarterback is a scary proposition. Clemson doesn't have a very strong schedule this season. Toughest game is Florida State, but you can make an argument for South Carolina. I guess too early to tell, really. Yeah, listen, I'll be the first to tell you. This is the easiest schedule that Clemson's had in a long time. We've had a very tough non-conference schedule the past 7 or 8 years. So we played Auburn 5 times in the past decade, and they've always been a top 10 team when we played them. We beat them 4 out of those 5 times. Some of the other teams in the ACC, of course, Florida State, NC State, Louisville, at the time were all top 15 teams. Even Virginia Tech last year was a top 15 team when we beat them in Blacksburg. This year, because we're playing Texas A&M, which was scheduled like 10 years ago, it's not like we knew they were going to be going through a transition and not be good right now. When we scheduled them, they were pretty good. Anyway, my point is, I agree. Clemson's got the easiest schedule this year than they've had in a while. I would, however, say that other teams that we normally just beat up on every year in the ACC that are in our division, mainly Boston College, NC State, those are games that could be trap games, mainly the Boston College game. This would be the best Boston College team that's been there in 20 years. They've always had a good defense, always had a horrible offense. This year their offense is looking really good. Boston College is going to win a lot of games, people. Write it down. I promise you they are. They're that good. And believe me, I've never said that in my life, so I'm not being a homer. It's just a fact. Mark Dudley, watch Ohio State's week 2. Our opportunity will turn some heads. You mad, bro? Good afternoon, sir. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Skeet, Pigskin Pete. I was at Tanger this past Friday. So he was in my hometown at the Tanger Outlets, I guess is what he's saying. All right, Paul Jameson, man. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it, man. Don't underestimate Texas A&M. Jimbo will have them ready to go. I'm not underestimating them. I'm not underestimating Jimbo's ability to be a great game coach, X's and O's wise. Problem is, Jimbo Fisher has not been recruiting talent there the past 4 years. Jimbo Fisher does not have Jimbo Fisher caliber players at Texas A&M. That's it. We're too big for him. He's scared of South Carolina. Listen, man, I don't mind the trolling. But at least you have nothing original, nothing funny, nothing that anybody believes. At least have some like shred of truth to what you're saying. You're trolling on a scale from 1 to 100. I give your trolling a 2 at best. Michael Flowers, you suck at trolling. I'm guessing more than likely you probably suck at everything else in your life too. Speaking of Jimbo, he needs hair transplant. Stress must be getting him. So Jimbo Fisher, I won't even get into it because there'll be plenty of. I've got plenty of material planned for Jimbo Fisher. So I'm not gonna expose it all right now. Just stay tuned. I promise. You won't be disappointed when it comes to Jimbo Fisher. George says he predicts Georgia crushes South Carolina and Clemson crushes Texas A&M. I would tend to agree with you. Now, the only one I'm not so sure about is Georgia crushing South Carolina. Can they? Sure they can. The only reason I even give South Carolina even a 5% chance of winning this game. It's because it's in Columbia. Other than that, they can't. They're not on the same level as Georgia. That's all there is to it. Good afternoon, Johnny 908. He says, "Good afternoon, Pete. Go Noles." Got a lot of Florida State fans in here. Johnny, are you? What do you think about tonight? I'm picking your team to win tonight, which could be a good thing or could be a bad thing. Just ask Miami fans. I picked them last night to win, and obviously they got blown out. Yeah, I think Florida State wins tonight. For roster reasons, that's it. But the fact that it's in Florida State and the fact that Willie Taggart inherited one of the top rosters in the country, that's why. Florida State, man. I mean, not Florida State. Virginia Tech has been underwhelming in recruiting. I mean, listen, they went and got this guy, Fuente, 3 years ago from Memphis. The reason they got him is because they hadn't had an offense in 15 years. So they went and got a guy who was scoring 80 points at Memphis, and it was supposed to fix their offensive problem. And they retained Bud Foster as the longtime defensive coordinator, a top 5 or 10 defensive coordinator in the country for a long time now, since the 1930s probably. So I'm thinking, man, Virginia Tech's they're going to be the real deal now. They've got Bud Foster, they've solidified their defense, and they've got an offensive mind in there. A young guy, too, who can recruit and score points. Well, here we are going into year 4. Nobody's still seen Virginia Tech's offense. They're still just as terrible as they were before Fuente got there. So, again, at the end of this, I'll learn a lot tonight. I'm this close to jumping off the Justin Fuente train. If Florida State goes in there and blows Virginia Tech off the map and Virginia Tech struggles to move the ball, I'm off the train. I'm off the Fuente train, period. I've given them long enough. It's time to put up or shut up if you're Fuente with the offense. Nine or 8 says, "I think we win, but a close game, but Virginia Tech's solid team." Virginia Tech's always going to have a solid defense. That's a given. Period. But if you can't score points, you can't win football games. That simple. "You're going to find out about Taggart tonight," says George. I don't know if you're saying that Taggart's going to be good or bad. Let me know what you mean by that. A coot told me yesterday, this is you mad bro saying this, a coot told me today that they will score on everybody they play this year. I was like, you will win? Well, let me tell you something. The Gamecock fans love to come on here, and all they want to do is say Syracuse, Syracuse, Syracuse. Meanwhile, Syracuse scored more points against Clemson in one game last year than the Coots have in the past 3 years combined. So Syracuse is better than South Carolina. Offensively, anyway. Fuente is a good coach, even if he loses tonight. Well, he might be a good coach, but what are you going off of? I mean, how can you make that statement? What has he done? I agree. I think he's a good coach, too. But this is the same thing with Harbaugh. I mean, first of all, Harbaugh is a much more highly touted coach than Fuente ever was, and much more experienced coach too. But at what point do you finally say this isn't working? Like, I'm willing to give Fuente this year, that's it. Got a short leash with me. Show me something this year. Win the Coastal and compete for the ACC, and I might change my mind. If he goes out there and wins 7 or 8 games, I'm done with him. The Gators are back, but to tell you the truth, we never went anywhere. George, come on, man. I know you love your team and everything. You did go somewhere, though. But again, I think that, Florida is one of the most talented teams in the country roster-wise. They've got other problems they need to fix. We'll see how they do. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat South Carolina this year and got second place in the East behind Georgia. I'll give you that much. I love being able to interface on Georgia channels and Clemson channels, and it's all even Steven. Thank God everybody doesn't act like Lance. Are you talking about Lance and Jasper? He's funny, man. I'm trying to read. I can't read what this guy's saying here. South Carolina has no chance against Clemson. I would tend to agree, sir. Listen, there's only one fan base in the entire world that thinks that South Carolina can compete with Clemson this year. And it's South Carolina fans. But they think they could do that every year. They've been thinking that for a long time. Samuel and Bentley are the only positive things about South Carolina. Yeah, offensively. Now, they've got some weapons. Don't get me wrong. What's the guy's name? Edwards. I don't know too much. I'm not sold on their running game. Their defense is always going to be decent, but it's just I'm not a believer in Bentley, really. He just hasn't impressed me. Now, he's got more interceptions against Clemson than he does touchdowns in the past 2 years. Might be right about that, Jacob. Miami fans are already tired of Richt. Yeah. I'm not going to even go there. My feelings about Richt. Now, I will tell you this. I think that Richt's a good coach. I think he's a good recruiter. That's obvious. He's recruiting very well in Miami. The thing last night that really struck me was his lack of courage. I mean, you got to give it to Ed Orgeron. That second quarter, they converted 2 4th and shorts, went for it. One of them was on the 50-yard line, and that changed the whole momentum of the game. Up until that time, Miami was looking tough. They were both. It was looking like an even game, but it was a very physical game. Didn't look like it was going to be very high scoring. Then Ed Orgeron grows a pair of balls, goes for it twice on 4th down on the same drive, scores, and blew the game wide open. The very next drive, Miami gets the ball. They get down to the 40-yard line in LSU territory, 4th and 2, punt it. I mean, dude, are you trying to win this game or not? And then you look at him on the sideline, and he just looks like he's at a tea party with a bunch of pregnant women. No emotion. I mean, at least Ed Orgeron wanted to win that game way more than Mark Richt did. That's my criticism of Mark Richt. I mean, you got to have some passion, man. When you're getting your butt handed to you and you just cower, then you don't deserve to win. And he also should have pulled that quarterback at least at the very latest after the first half was over. Malik Rozier is terrible. He's terrible. He's not going to win. If they keep Malik Rozier in there, they're not going. They might win 7 games if they're lucky. He's not good. Uncle Lou tried to tell me the world about Mark Richt. I'm a Gator fan. I already knew Miami ruined for a decade now. Yeah, I mean, Georgia fans have been saying this is what Mark Richt does. And hey, listen, I agree. I mean, he showed that. He showed that last night. I'll give you that much. He doesn't show up for the big games, does he? I mean, it is what it is. I don't get it. But here's the bottom line. If you're a Miami fan, you're torn, because before Mark Richt, you were completely irrelevant. I mean, let's be honest here, guys. For the past 18 years, nobody's heard from Miami until Mark Richt got there. So, I mean, if you're a Miami fan, listen, I understand you got high expectations. You want to win the ACC. You want to be competing for titles. Forget the ACC. I mean, if you're a longtime Miami fan, this is what you want. This is what you expect. But I don't know. I mean, where do you got to get somebody better than Mark Richt? Are you willing to go another 10 years in the coaching search to find somebody who's better than Mark Richt? I don't know. Are you? You let me know. It's a tough situation. Clemson Jacob says he heard from Miami fans that the coaching staff said Rozier really improved his passing. Yeah. Oh, if that's improvement, then that's pretty bad improvement. Austin Jensen says the U is back to losing big games. South Carolina does have much better offense, which could enable them to possibly compete with Clemson. But again, I could be too early to tell. Yeah, they're not competing with Clemson. So I do agree. They offensively, well, at least on paper anyway, South Carolina should have a much better offense than they've had in a while, since the height of Steve Spurrier time, when they had Connor Shaw and what's the guy's name, the running back. They Alshon Jeffrey and all those guys. They had a powerful offense that, those couple of years when they won 11 games. Since then, they've been pretty flat. I don't think they're going to be as good as the Spurrier offense when they were at their height this year, but it's the best offense they've had definitely since Muschamp's been there, and even the last couple of years that Spurrier was there. But still not good enough. Sorry. Not good enough to win the East, not good enough to win the SEC, and not good enough to beat Clemson. So 0 for 3 on all your goals. See you next year, Gamecock fans. I mean, the season just started, but it's already over for you. I promise. Good afternoon, Prince 6'1". How you doing, sir? Glad to see you here. Rozier's so inaccurate, he looked like Jalen Hurts. No, he looked worse than Jalen Hurts. You want to know why? Because at least Jalen Hurts can run the ball. At least he's got some value. Everybody's still riding the Jake Bentley hype train until they get curb stomped by us again. Exactly. Yeah. I still think Carolina's only going to win 4 games. I mean, not win, lose 4 games. So here's the way I see it. Losing to Georgia and Clemson, most likely. That's 2. Bye-bye 2 losses. That's 10-2. A best case scenario, if you don't lose some games you shouldn't lose. Very good chance you could lose to Kentucky for the 5th year in a row, which would be an embarrassment if that happened. It's in Kentucky too, so good luck with that. Very very easily could lose to Missouri. I think Missouri is going to beat some people, some really good teams this year because they've got the quarterback to do it. I mean, Jake Bentley is not half the quarterback that Drew Lock is, and you're going to find that out in the draft too, because. If Bentley enters the draft this year, he won't. I don't know, 3rd round maybe. Best case scenario, Drew Lock could be a 1st or 2nd rounder, no doubt. I don't know. It is what it is. Missouri can score, that's for sure. I'm not convinced that South Carolina can keep up with Missouri and on the scoreboard. The only problem is Missouri doesn't have a really good defense, so we'll see what happens with that. Prince 6'1" says he's still not getting notifications. Lucky he saw the live video in his feed. I don't know what to tell you, man. Yeah, turn the bell off, turn it back on. I guess I don't know. I have a lot of people telling me that, so you're not the only one. Clemson Carson says he hopes Bentley stays for his final year. Yeah, so do I. I wish he could stay there forever. Never again. Is Mark Dudley in here? There he is. Mark Dudley. Good afternoon, sir. I didn't see you. Glad you could join us. I made you. I made you a mod. I'm sure, as you can see. There. Was it Gamecock Steve that was telling me South Kakalaki was getting more 5 stars than Clemson? I don't know. Gamecock Steve. I don't even know if he knows how to tie his shoes in the morning. I'm pretty sure he can't use a light switch. He thinks a hair dryer is a leaf blower. He doesn't know a whole lot. He's basically a special needs guy. So it's very possible that he did say that. Who y'all got tonight? Virginia Tech or Florida State? I've got Florida State. You're welcome, Mark Dudley. No problem, man. Any Michigan fan who can take the beating that I give out on YouTube and still has enough guts and balls and fandom to stick around is aces in my book, sir. So, Mark Dudley, who knows Gamecock Steve is the biggest moron ever, says Clemson Carson. Dennis Wilson. Dennis Wilson. I'm so glad that Dennis Wilson showed up. And so I will give you this. Now, I was just praising Mark Dudley for being a Michigan fan and still being here. So I've got to at least extend my kudos to Dennis Wilson. There was a bet we were having on one of my mod chat room of how long would it be before we saw Dennis Wilson again after Miami getting beat last night. So I'm glad to see that you showed up, Dennis Wilson. Dennis Wilson, what happened, man? Where's your Dabo Sweetie comments now? Hey, Dennis Wilson, where'd you watch the game at last night, man? Were you in your basement? You know you're going to get it from all angles, buddy. Yes. Good afternoon, Stick 118. How you doing, sir? Yes. Dennis Wilson's a Miami fan. He's the biggest Miami troll in the history of YouTube. But I love the guy. I mean, he's definitely hilarious. So Dennis, I know you know what? And here's the other thing about Dennis. A lot of times I ask Dennis questions since he's a Miami fan. He's the most he's on here more than anybody as far as Miami fans go. Also Jamie McCaslin's also on here a lot. But I can ask Jamie McCaslin a serious question and he'll give me a straight up answer. Dennis Wilson doesn't say anything serious. Everything he says is a troll job. Everything. So I would like to get his serious thoughts, but I'm not sure that he'll even give me a straight up answer or not. Dennis Wilson says, I'm here. This is not over. Every team about to lose. Okay. Dennis, what do you think about your quarterback? Can you give me a straight answer for that, please? Something that doesn't involve BYOG, Dabo Sweetie, rock rubbing, ramp runners. That's my favorite one. First of all, Dabo Sweetie is hilarious. And when he calls Clemson fans rock rubbing ramp runners, I was thinking about changing my YouTube name to rock rubbing ramp runner instead of Pigskin Pete. It has a ring to it. Rock rubbing ramp runner. Say that 3 times fast. I might get a shirt with that on it, Dennis Wilson. I'll have to send you royalties though. Mark Dudley, that guy's dumber than Will Muschamp. Voltard, you're a Gamecock fan? Even the Gamecock fans think Gamecock Steve is a moron. That says a lot right there. Dennis Wilson, you're going to answer my question, man. What do you think about Malik Rozier? Gamecock Steve was trying to say South Carolina was dominating Carolina, the Carolinas for recruits. This is the best recruiting class that South Carolina's had in maybe 8 years, and they were 19th in the country. So how is he dominating the Carolinas? Hey, he gave me a straight up answer. He says, Dennis Wilson, we still in good position, Pigskin Pete. We just soft up front on both sides of the ball. Malik's still at the Orange Bowl game against Wisconsin. I disagree, sir. Rozier's not good. She's not good. Sorry. Prince says, Rozier is great. Please start him the rest of the season. He shouldn't even started the second half last night. The best thing Malik did last night was hit that camera. Voltard says, yes, I hate Voltards. I go on almost every Tennessee video I can and spew whatever type of shit I can. My comments often get deleted. Well, I'm glad you're here, sir. If you're a Gamecock fan and you're hanging in the Pigskin Pete YouTube channel, you must be a pretty good guy. But you might not like me very much in a couple of months. I don't know how long you've been watching my channel, but Virginia Tech is going to come out and they're going to be clean and they're going to be crisp. If they're going to execute, they're going to embarrass Florida State on national television. George, that's a hot take, man. So now I will say, like I said, it's a very hard game to pick because there's too many unknowns. I'm just picking Florida State simply for the fact of their roster and that it's in Tallahassee. That's it. I mean, I'm not gonna be shocked if Virginia Tech won, but I'm picking Florida State. Miami's line play was atrocious last night. Yes, it was. Their offensive line was terrible. I mean, I guess it wasn't all Malik Rozier's fault. But even when Rozier had a clean pocket, he's not a good passer. It's that simple. Yeah, he probably won't. College Football Maniac is my Gamecock fan. Has been on here forever. He's good people. Coastal made South Carolina look like a good team. Exactly, sir. Chip Smith is a genius. He's a Clemson fan, so of course he's a genius. Listen, this is what happens every single year, guys. I've been living this for my entire life. My entire life, I've grown up in South Carolina, surrounded by Gamecock fans. I'm telling you, nobody knows their fan base better than me. Nobody on the face of this earth. Every single year, they're winning the SEC. Every single year, they're beating Clemson. Every single year, they're finally going to do it this year and win a national title. I hear it every year. And then usually by about week 8, they go away, and you don't see them until next year. So that's what's going to happen again this year. It's the way it is. Chip Smith people are trying to make Coastal sound good. Coastal. Okay. Clemson Carson, I have not heard people make Coastal good. Yeah, no, listen, I mean, Coastal's not on South Carolina's level. Isn't that sad? There's a team called South Carolina that has no humility, that won't win a football game first. Instead, they open their mouth and insert their foot. Yes, that's what they do. Louisville took a page out of the Gamecocks book and started saying they were going to beat Alabama. I mean, just saying that alone is grounds for you to get stomped. And that's what South Carolina does with Clemson, too. Saying they're going to beat them. Never again, that whole thing. Meanwhile, they get blown out worse than they did the year before every single year. It's more and more embarrassing. Deep down, Gamecock Steve is a good person. 6 feet down, to be exact. Oh, that's pretty rough, Prince. If your O-line and D-line is soft, you will never win. I don't care who you are, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, none of it will matter. Well, I agree, Dennis Wilson. Dennis Wilson, are you sober today? You're making more sense than you've made in the past year. I'm being serious. You're saying things that without emojis, coherent sentences even. It's amazing. You're like a different man. I agree with you. 100%. I don't hear a lot of dumb crap from, says Evoltard. As a Florida Gator fan, most disgraceful thing that can happen to us all year is lose to South Carolina. I would rather lose to Vanderbilt. Yeah, so I'm hey, George, very good chance Florida beats South Carolina this year. Very good chance. And I hope you do, sir. Because that would give me about 3 weeks of material. I wouldn't even have to. It'd be like waking up. It'd be like a Christmas gift. And when do you play them? October. It'd be like a Christmas gift in October if you did that. Dennis Wilson got off his weed. All right, guys. Listen, I gotta go. It's been about an hour. Listen, I appreciate everybody for stopping in. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, special guest, Georgia fan, calling into the show to discuss the Georgia and South Carolina game. If you're a Georgia fan, if you're a South Carolina fan, a fan of college football even, you want to check this show out. I'm not going to announce who it is. You all know who he is, though. It's going to be great. I guess that's it. Thank you to all my mods. Thank you all for all the new people that have stopped in. If you're new here, please hit the like and subscribe button. I do 2 live shows a week plus a live stream during a game, primetime college football game every Saturday. And I upload videos throughout the week, trash talking your team most likely all week long. It's a fun time to be alive. It's a fun time to be a football fan. It's a fun time to be a subscriber to the Pigskin Pete YouTube channel. So, thank you all. I appreciate all of you. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete, check it out.